All right. So hopefully this time it works. I see myself um, having some technical difficulties today. So I am Dr. Latoya Davis, and this is Soul Wisdom Chat. So welcome to you all. This is, I'm sorry, Ask Me Anything. So I jump on here generally every third Wednesday to take questions from viewers. You can put them in the chat. I also take pre-questions, but I haven't seen you all in a while. It's been a minute since I've actually hopped on to do a live. All right, great. Hey, Sammy. It's been a minute since I've hopped on to do a live. Life has definitely been lifing to the utmost. And generally, because I do these so late, by the time we're here at night, I'm just really tired. Hi, Deshay. So thank y'all for joining. And hopefully I can be back with some consistency and some regularity moving forward. So a bit about me. Here at Ask Me Anything, we can really talk about all things metaphysical, spiritual. My wheelhouse, my area of expertise and specialty really lies within the Akashic Records and ancestral veneration, elevation, and healing. So those are kind of the two areas that I really focus in. But then within that, I am always looking at the idea of universal laws and metaphysics and quantum healing and sound, like all of the things. I love all of the things, right? So feel free to ask me a question and you can just drop it in the chat and we'll move forward from there. So until I get some questions, I just have a few things I will talk about first. Next week, I leave for Costa Rica. So I am hosting the Soul Wellness Retreat in Costa Rica, which is, I believe, 6 days and 5 nights. And we're going to do all things just getting people connected back to who they are, being able to hear their soul, know the direction and the things that are internal that are trying to bubble up, but we kind of don't hear because life, right? In this retreat, we have sound therapy, Reiki, trip to waterfalls. It's a lot. Okay, so I'm really excited about that and know that this is something that I will be doing annually. So when you come back and see the pictures, don't feel like, oh gosh, I missed it. You can absolutely join us next year. All right. So it'll always be in July, towards the end of July. So if it's something that you're interested in, just kind of go ahead and put that on your thinking calendar now, your thinking mind now. I am also in the process of putting out the dates for an ancestral healing retreat. That one will just be, it will be local, so here in the US, and a 2-day event, right? And so we will be really diving into and looking at taking you on kind of a personal journey on one, first identifying where some areas or some areas that your lineage or your ancestral lineage could really use your support to release and help heal and elevate. And during the course of those 2 days, we will really deep dive into releasing and elevating that, and then helping you create your own personal practice, so that once you leave, you can kind of continue the journey and that voyage. And then the next retreat, so I have two USA retreats that'll be coming up. So that is the one that's the ancestral one, and then I'll be doing one in Sedona. That's another soul wellness retreat, but it's just local. Or I say local, but I mean in the US. All right, so that's what's coming up. And then I have a free 4-day intensive that is coming up for ancestral lineage healing as well. So the ancestors have really been heavy on me, lately for the past, I would say 2-3 months. And so that energy and the information and the teachings that are coming up around that are a lot. So that's what's happening. All right. Question. I've been bumping up against forgiveness for many years. How can the Akashic Records help me resolve this for good? Hope this makes sense. So, and then where would the person be? So, forgiveness. So one of the things that's really important to know when we're talking about making any type of shift or change in our life, no matter what externally we do, right? No matter what force or no matter what system, no matter what process or practice we undertake, the shift actually doesn't come into place until we make the choice to take action that's in alignment with the shift that we want. right? So you can absolutely go within the Akashic Records. What the Akashic Records is going to do is help you understand why you are, because if this is a pattern, right? If you are repeatedly having issues around forgiveness, right? It could be the same people, could be different people, right? But if that thing kind of keeps circling back to you in a particular way, that says that it's a pattern. And that says that there is something there that is at the root of it. So what you can do in the Akashic Records is understand what is showing up, why it's showing up, and then how you can go to resolve it. So for example, often talk about sometimes in our healing work, we are actually just addressing symptoms, right? And so it's like they say when you're sick and you just take an aspirin, right? You have a headache. You've actually only masked the problem. You haven't actually dealt with what the thing is that is the problem. So you can have temporary relief, but because you haven't actually dealt with whatever the issue is, the thing will resurface and then you will come back with a headache, right? So the Akashic Records allow you to get into the thing and understand what the actual root of the problem is, which could be past life situation, right? It could be a choice that you made, a lesson that your soul has chosen to learn in this lifetime. And so you keep bumping up with things and calling that energy where you are putting yourself in the space where you're needing to have to give this forgiveness because you haven't quite dealt with whatever that lesson is, or that learning that your soul has decided that it wanted to work through in this lifetime, right? So there are many reasons that that can be showing up, and it could also just be some internal, or sorry, this lifetime trauma or experience that has created a thought loop, or embedded itself, made an energetic imprint. So it could have done a lot of things. And so by going into the records and understanding the what, the how, and the who, one, it makes you be able to make conscious choices when that thing pops up again, to be like, oh, I know why that's happening. That's one. But then also within the records, we are also able to shift things energetically, right? Kind of give ourselves a scrub down or wash to undo some of those energetic knots and tangles. So you could do that within the records. But the best and easiest way I would suggest that you move through the records and trying to understand this forgiveness idea is, one, ask, what is it about? Right? What lesson am I to learn from this? What choices have I made that are contributing to me being in these positions? And then two, what are some things that I can do to shift this energy, to release this pattern, right, to move forward? So understand it and then ask, what can you do to shift and move through it? All right. The second retreat, or the first retreat, so I'm sorry, was that good, Deshay? While Deshay is answering, the first retreat, which will be the Ancestral Lineage Healing Retreat, will actually either be, and this is why I haven't quite put out the date yet, it will either be in Atlanta or it will be in Tallahassee. When I did the Ancestral Lineage certification program, we did the retreat in Atlanta. I really liked it there. I liked some of the spaces that we were able to go to tap into kind of that ancestral stuff. But Tallahassee has a really profound and in-depth kind of energetic or energy that happens here as it relates to ancestral things. So it will be in one of those two places. I need to commit to one of the two. All right. So I don't know who else just joined me. Okay. For good or for visit? Are you visiting, Sammy? Because it's actually in September is what I'm thinking. The date that the month that it will happen, and it's going to happen in September. Is that Ancestral Lineage one, and then the Sedona one will happen in December. All right. Okay, visiting. Okay. So let's see, what can we, if nobody else has questions, I'm not going to be on here long. Y'all know if people aren't asking questions, I don't stay long. But I will talk about this thing, this idea that has kind of been bubbling up around me lately. And it relates to the soul. Actually, right before I came on here, I was in a class. A good friend of mine was holding a class around death and dying. I don't want to mess up the title, but it was like death and the transition. We were looking at the transition between the leaving this side, so leaving this kind of earthly realm once we die, and then crossing over, right? But he was linking it to music and some of the spirituals and how the songs were coded, right? And if we actually like take the songs back and music back and look at the words and listen to what it's saying, that it began to take on a whole new meaning, right? And this idea that our ancestors actually really understood, because they weren't that far removed from those larger notions of spirit, right? How we are today. And so those songs were actually reminiscent and hinting at those things. And in it was coding of helping the soul transition, and how many days and how we can help the souls get over, including things like paying money. If you watch some of my previous videos where I've talked about like ancestor money, or doing elevation rituals where we have like these certain amount of days where we are helping the spirit to elevate. So it was a really interesting class. But this thing that has really been on my mind lately is this idea of the soul and the soul's transition. So the difference, let me set up a differentiation. So when we're talking about ancestral, when we're talking about departing, or soul departing, or soul leaving, and we are referring to it as an ancestor, we are talking about the energy of that person as they have lived and left an energetic imprint as that particular person, right? So when my mom died, there's an aspect of her that created an energetic imprint while she was here, right? The people she came into contact with, the things she did, the places she went, everything, all of that left an energetic imprint, right? How people perceived her, how people remembered her, that left an energetic imprint. The aspect of her that's within my DNA, right? That is different than the soul of her. That energetic imprint of her will be here, right? It will continue to be here and remain in this space and in this place, right? There's an African proverb that says, as long as there's someone alive to tell your story, that ancestor is still alive, right? So that aspect of her will still be here. The soul aspect of her left the moment she died. In theory, we'll hope that that's what happened. Without going down the rabbit hole, right? Souls can have different things. Some say hang around, whatever. But we're gonna say that all things were going well, and the moment she died, her soul left her body, right? And then that soul is traversing the soul space, right? Doing whatever it is, elevating and waiting on its choice for whatever it wants to do in this next lifetime, right? What learning experiences does it want to reincarnate as a human? Is it just going to hang out? Is it going to become a spirit guide, right? So the soul aspect is different than the ancestral energetic imprint. Okay. And so I wanted to just differentiate that. And so now looking at this idea of the soul and understanding that our soul is one, limitless, right? And its ability to learn, receive, heal, grow, elevate, all of that is absolutely infinite. And at soul level, we are all divinely and perfectly made. That's really the point I want to get to, right? At soul level, we are all really divinely and perfectly made. And the choices that we make while we're here, right? I want us to start to think about giving ourselves grace for some of those things that we're experiencing. And I think if we're able to understand that the soul is eternal, right? The soul is eternal. It comes, it goes, it leaves, it comes back. And we have to say, okay, why is it coming back? Why am I making? So this goes back to your thing earlier too, Deshay, right? Why am I having these experiences? What is it about the situations and the circumstances that I keep being in that is important for me? So taking it out of our like human existence, our human experience, our human mind, and shifting the questioning to our soul self, right? Shifting the questioning to our soul self, which is divinely and perfectly made and shows up divinely and perfectly for whatever choices that soul has chosen in that lifetime, right? And now it's just about understanding the why and the how. And that allows us to move through life with just kind of like, yep, these are the choices I'm making, right? And now understanding that I can maximize joy, ease, and abundance. That's my thing, right? I can maximize joy, ease, and abundance when I am in alignment with and understanding why of the soul. Okay. So that was a just something that's really been on me. I think we get not confused. We judge ourselves too harshly, um, based on the choices that our human self is making, and do not allow ourselves the grace to experience life through our divinity. When you are able to look at yourself and judge yourself, um, through your divinity and ask questions of yourself through your divinity, you are able to shift so much faster, right? You are able to draw the things into you that you need that will help you move through this life, right? With so much greater ease. Because when we are asking our questions, when we're asking ourselves questions and judging ourselves through the human lens, now we're stuck in the comparison, we're stuck in the ego mind, we're stuck in the, all the things everyone has ever said to us, we're stuck in the societal trappings, we're stuck in all of that, and it just becomes really really difficult sometimes to see our way out, right? I don't want to pass judgment on the situation that just happened with the Carly person. I don't know the story, I don't know her circumstances, I don't know her life, right? But I know that when we are feeling stuck, it is because we are judging ourselves through this human body, these human experiences. We are comparative, right? We are comparative by nature. And I just want us to take a moment and know that we are all divine. And when we're feeling like that, to be able to ask ourselves, why did my soul choose this? Okay. And the quicker we're able to get to the why, because we don't have to keep, once we understand it, we don't have to keep doing it, right? So once we can get to the why and get to the understanding, then we can get to the better part of whatever that experience is. All right. So Sammy says, what made me start all of this? What practice did I start first? So I actually grew up, um my immediate household was Baptist. But I always say that my idea of larger spirit actually came from how I grew up as a child. A large part of my family was Muslim. Um, I had my dad's side of the family was Roman Catholic. Then I was Baptist. I had friends. My next door neighbors were, well, one side were Jamaican, the other side were Haitian. And so sometimes I would go to the Haitian church. They were Pentecostal, right? So like all of these different experiences. And really the way we were in my family was whoever you're with, that's what you do. Right? So when my aunt came to pick my cousin up from school on Fridays to go to the masjid, I was going to the mosque as well, right? So I had my skirt, I had my head tied, like, so wherever you were is what you did. And when I got in middle school or high school, I started to question the idea within the Baptist church, like, well, I don't believe that these people are going to hell because they haven't proclaimed Lord to be, or Jesus to be their savior, right? I was like, how can I look at my other family and love them deeply and truly and see that they're doing good deeds, see that they are, doing all of these things. They're living examples of the things that they're learning. How can I look at them and then me be like, damn you, you're going to hell because you have refused to accept this thing. And so as an early child, I thought that that was very elitist and problematic. And I was thankful to be in the family. Like I said, that just was like wherever you are, that's what you do. By the time I got to college, I took an intro to religion class, and that opened my eyes even more. And then after that, I completely became like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this religion thing. I think that religion is something that was created to put a division between man and being able to access God, and I refuse to believe. um I refuse to believe in that. And so I set out on this spiritual path. Really, there wasn't a path. Really, that was my statement. And I was like, all right, universe, whatever you need me to do, right, that's what I'll do. And I met my now ex-husband. But at the time, met him, started dating, and he was into African traditional religious systems. Primarily at that time, he was into Orisha, or his family was like, he was third generation, dealing with the Orisha system. And but still, I was on my free spirit, nobody needs organization or anything like that. And I've always been, I would say prophetic, right? I've always been able to receive messages and downloads and stuff like that. And I had a dream that I was going to die in a car accident. And I kept having the dream, and it got to the point where I was really nervous to get in cars. In the dream, the seatbelt like kind of choked me, so I would get in the car but didn't want to put on the seatbelt. Um, and that's how I got into African traditional religion. My at the time boyfriend was like, "Okay, enough of this. We're going for a reading." And so that really just kind of kickstarted my spiritual journey. And so I transitioned from Orisha, Lukumi tradition. Then I was initiated into Palo, and then I found Yoruba Sheshe, and then through that, I've done work in other systems, but those were the things that I'm initiated into. But then through that, again, life continuing to learn and grow. Um, I still was like, wait, this is just another layer of something, and my ability to connect with spirit is still greater than having to go through these systems. So that's when I really started to get into metaphysics and quantum world, and various other forms of spirituality. So that's my long version of that story. um how long did it take me to feel comfortable in the records? Well, um the thing is, I just did it, right? So I started learning to read the Akashic Records. Um, and I asked somebody to let me read them as a, what do you call it? Like a test, a practice, like to practice with them. And I was hella nervous, right? I was doubtful, didn't know if what I was saying was real or true, because, I hadn't done it. I did it on myself a few times, but really that was it. And then after I did the first person, they were like, oh my gosh, this was so good. So they really reassured me. And then they referred me to somebody else. And then they referred me to somebody else. So really, my comfort came from doing it, my comfort in the records, which is why I always say in all of my classes, like, you cannot not do it, right? You can't not practice it, because you won't get better. You need the feedback from people, or either from even just you asking your questions, writing it down, and asking your questions, writing down, then verifying, right? So, okay, I asked this, I got this, wait, I see how this played out. Okay, I got this. Okay, I see now how this makes sense, right? So you begin to build your own confidence by seeing the process work. If you don't go through that, you never become comfortable with it, right? Um, I do go in and out of the records, like, because I've done it. So when we do the class, one of the things I do is we do the attunement, right? The reason we do the attunement is to create kind of that energetic, or this symbiotic, or resonance within the frequencies between the person and then the Akashic field, right? But the reality is, if you continue to just go in, you just continue to go in, right? You will continue to develop that resonance, right? Because you're going time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. So there becomes a natural kind of imprinting or a natural kind of energetic raising or shifting that occurs. So I've done, I don't even know how many readings, right, at this point. So my ability to shift and tap into that vibration is seamless, right? But it, again, it only is because I've done it so much. In the beginning, I was telling, I used to offer, my readings used to be about an hour and 15 minutes, right? Was where I started, but I prepped before that. So altogether, this is when I was doing like the clearing reading. Altogether, it took me about 2 hours to do a reading between my prep, doing the work with the client, blah, 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 right? Now that particular clearing session, I can get done in 45 minutes, right? And then a regular Akashic record reading, which is when somebody just calls you, they ask you questions, you're giving them answers, things like that. An hour session for me was a good amount of time, right? We could go through some questions. They felt satisfied. I felt satisfied. Now, an hour regular Akashic session for me feels like time is moving at the pace of molasses because the information comes to me so fast. I can literally read, I can give you, in 30 minutes. So now I primarily do 30-minute sessions, right? Somebody can do a 45-minute session, but I primarily do 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, I can probably give you what somebody can give you in an hour and a half, right? Because again, it's like the information is just there. It comes, it's downloaded. I'm plugged in, you're plugged in, boom. We don't need to be here for a lifetime to get the information. But again, it comes because I've done it, right? It comes because I've done it. So yeah. I love the records. I love it. I love the ability for people to be able to shift and see and learn. I had a session actually today. And and this is one of those things too, where it's like, I still sometimes question stuff that comes up, right? In the session today, the person was asking about kind of some of their past lives, how some of their past lives were impacting them in this current lifetime. And we started exploring that and went to a particular setting and space. And the place was, the master was like, Nepal. I was like, Nepal? This, they lived a lifetime in Nepal, right? And so I am absolutely questioning that as a reality. And I was like, well, I'm gonna say it. And I said, they're saying that you had this lifetime in Nepal, blah, 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 blah. At the end, she says, what's really crazy is I am absolutely attracted to and drawn to, I forgot how she said, Nepalese, Nepalian, I don't know, whatever the people are that come from Nepal, right? To that lifestyle, to that culture. I was like, that's crazy, right? So I say that to say, I still sometimes am like, what? But just like I teach in my classes, right? Say it, because the information that comes is not for you. It's not for me to understand. It's for the person you're working with to understand. So you have to just trust it and say it and know that whatever is coming is right, right? Energy follows intent. We set the intention at the beginning of our Akashic record session, either if we're doing it for ourselves or if we're doing it for someone else, right? We set the intention and we trust that energy to follow throughout the session. All right. Yes. So, Sammy, you asked about the clearing and that it helped. Is it okay to do once a year? So, my only thing would be, so just for those of you who might not be clear. So, one of the readings that I offer, or one of the services that I offer, is a clearing and healing within the Akashic record. So within that particular type of session, we are looking for very specific things that are showing up for someone in that moment that might be causing roadblocks or challenges or things that are kind of coming up. And then we go into kind of undo them or unravel them, right? So oftentimes you might have vows that you've made or commitments or agreements. Like you could have all of these things that are kind of showing up that are keeping you stuck in particular patterns. Okay. And so then we do the clearing, and I'll offer typically homework for the client to do, um, just to kind of shift and continue to bolster the work that we did while on the call. So, so that was the explanation. So to answer your question, Sammy, parts of that you can absolutely do, but some of it is very specific. And I don't remember exactly, what your things were. So some of them won't apply, right? Because some of the things that I send in the clearing are specific to the issues that have come up. But for the most part, like if you look at the first paragraph and the last paragraph, those are pretty generic, a standard for everybody and for everything. So you could absolutely do that again without a problem. But I would just say, look at the language that's around some of the specific things that are there, and you can insert your own thing, right? My godfather used to say, one time I was like, I need this thing, I need you to do this for me, right? And he was like, he was busy, he couldn't get to me. And he was like, who's gonna pray for you harder than you? Right? Nobody. He was like, yeah, I can pray for you. I can do it, but who's going to pray for you harder than you? So I say that, Sammy, to say, look through it, right? And think about what's been going on for you during this time that you want to clear, right? What are the things that are coming up? And just come up with your own, again, do that first and that closing paragraph. What are some things that you just really want from your heart, right? To put out there. Energy follows intention. And the best thing is going to always be from the power and the intention in your words, right? So yes, you can do it again, but just be mindful of those things that don't actually apply, and insert what is applicable for you. All right. Anybody else? I see somebody else has joined on. Let me know who you are. I would like if you hit the like. I would love if you hit the little like button. I'm so bad at that, y'all. Likes, share, subscribe thing. Um, all right, great. So if there are no other questions, I'm gonna just do a shameless plug. Um, right, we have our affirmation coloring book, or mandala coloring book, right? So this one I think has, I think this one has 60 affirmations in here. So you can get these on Amazon, right? I have 3 total. This one is Living Life Without Limits and Other Positive Affirmations. We have Living a Life of Abundance. So this one is all about money, right? Money affirmations. Because, really all of this work, all of it, no matter how we get to it, how we look at it, it's all mindset, right? It's all mindset. And there are just many ways for us to begin to shift the mindset. I believe in the power of affirmations, right? I believe, and then the reason that I like these is because not only are you saying it, but then there's the tactile thing, right? So there's something else that happens when we are kind of putting pen to paper, or pencil to paper, crayon to paper, whatever. Another level of connection is happening that way, and then we're visually seeing it, right? So the beautiful thing about these is that there's kind of this multi-layeredness that's working to reshift and reprogram the mind. So that's 2. The third one I don't have over here, but you can find them on the Amazon store. And then, of course, my Akashic Records journal. So that's my shameless plug. That's all I have happening, y'all. It has been a long time. I've missed y'all. I really do enjoy doing these. And like I said, I will be back a little more frequently and regularly. If you are not following me on Instagram, it's Chi Healing Institute, and on my mailing list, where you can always get newest. Actually, I'm running a special right now, y'all. If anybody wants an Akashic record reading, I have a few more spots. I don't know how many spots are left, but there are a few more spots. And the special is $97 for a 30-minute reading. So remember, I told y'all 30 minutes is kind of is my happy spot with the readings. And which website do you go to do that? Chiheal2, CHIHEALTU.com, and you use code oh y'all, I don't even know. I think maybe it's Lucky 97. That doesn't feel right. Why did I have something for Lucky? Um, I don't know. I guess the larger thing here is that you should be on the mailing list, and then you would get the and then you would know the specials and the coupon codes, right? So if you go to that same website, just join the mailing list, and you'll get information for the future. All right, y'all. Have a great night.